Hello, hello. I think we're live. And when I say we, I mean the we collective sense. Telman is spending some father-son bonding time. I'm sure he can tell you about it tomorrow. But so he's off and doing the father-son thing. So your guys are stuck with me today. So what I thought I'd do today is to create some sort of a. Let's give me a second to pull this up here. Is to create some sort of a, hey Gene, what's going on? Let's see if I can actually put this in the comments. There we go. How you doing? Thanks for joining us. So the what was that? Oh, I was getting at that yesterday and in general, both Telman and I, and more so me than Telman, have the tendency to talk in principles, and especially in these live streams, it's a little difficult sometimes to share exactly what we're attempting to communicate to you. So what I thought I'd do today is, based on the subject matter that we covered yesterday of building rapport and trust and doing it in an online forum and how to transfer that over, I thought I'd walk through a case study of sorts, which is a process that I'm building out for my own business model, a separate one from what I'm doing with Telman, and a separate one from what I'm doing with anybody else. So this is just to kind of share with you what is the dealy bop, as it were. And let me just kind of, oh, this is great, cool. All right, so I can actually see what's going on at the same time. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do is kind of walk you through something that I'm been working on, calling it in terms of the process to build, in terms of creating a automated system, as it were, to generate folks to come in pre-qualified, pre-screened, to think the way that you would like them to think, to be able to want and enjoy doing business with you, and so that they're the right customer in the right time, that type of thing. And so what I thought I'd do is take a non-marketing guru, non-business development guru type approach and demo out a process that I'm putting in place built around personal development, spiritual development, and see how that grabs y'all. And so the idea is that let me first kind of explain the framework or the foundation of what I am terming an Evergreen IME. An Evergreen IME stands for Insight Marketing Engine, right? So, it ties into what we were discussing yesterday, where there are things that we would like people to come to us already knowing and already believing and already having that in there. And the more that we can do this in a systematic way, with systematic certainty, that we can bring people through that kind of awakening process, and the more that we can do it in a like I said, a systematic way, then we have then a process by which, when we start to interact with them on a deeper level, they've been kind of preconditioned, as it were, to think a certain way, to be engaged in a certain way. And so what the Evergreen IME is based on is something that you probably are familiar with in terms of movies or TV shows or plays. It's a, hey, Nathaniel, how are you, man? Thanks for joining us. And so what the foundation is something that I would call a 3-act play. And so Act 1 sets the stage, and you start to think about where it is that you're going to take people. And I'm going to walk you through this in a demonstration walkthrough format so that you can see it, kind of how I've engineered it in one application. Then it's going to be up to you to adapt it and adopt what makes sense for you. But I want you to get the core foundational principles and use what I'm going to reveal to you here as the foundational platform or framework to create the growth from. I'm doing great, Nathaniel. How you're? Oh, good, and you? Yes, so you're good, awesome, and thanks again for joining us. So, the idea is, where do I want somebody to wind up at the end of the crescendo of the third act of the play, when the climax, you build to a tension, you have, that crescendo, and how can you make the outcome? I mean, they're anticipating it, they're going with it, but how can you kind of surprise them? How can you twist it in the context of whatever it is that you want to give them? In terms of insights and in terms of creating value. So this is one aspect. And what I did when I first started creating this is I thought about where I wanted people to wind up when they actually started to enroll and work with me inside of a community that I'm building into this. And I thought about, okay, what beliefs do they have to have? What worldviews do they have to be interested in to be able to get value out of it? What are the tools? What are the resources? What are the thoughts, as it were, that would have to be present in people so that they could enter into the community and get value from it and engage with it on a common basis? And so I then worked it backwards, and I spaced them out globally inside of the 3 acts, right? Like it wasn't just one major insight. This was obviously several different ones. But basically, there were 2 or 3 main insights that are built upon each other in each of the acts. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to walk you through each of the 3 acts of the play, so to speak here, of how I've laid out the Evergreen IME, and allow you to kind of see it. And then at the end, we can go back, and any questions that you have along the way, feel free to chime in, and I'm happy to stop and we can adapt it. But also at the end, it'll probably make more sense, and you'll see what I've done in each of the 3 acts and how it is interplayed, right? And what the course is. And the thing that I'd like you to take note of as we're going through this stuff is look at the way that it's systemized. Look at the way that I've done the work once, and if I do it right, then I don't have to do it again. And it truly is evergreen, and it truly is an insight marketing engine. And the insights are what get stacked on. And when somebody, like at a global level, when somebody says, wow, I didn't know that's amazing, or whatever, it doesn't matter how big or how small it is, when they mentally say to themselves, wow, I didn't know that, and about something, that is the value creation process in their brain, in their mind, in their heart, where they go, wow, I didn't know that, or well, I didn't look at it in that way. I didn't think about it from that perspective before. Right? Yeah. So from that point forward, it's just stacks of those things that stack up there, and that is what I mean by an insight. And so when you build this properly, it truly is a process by which you can meet people in the mental conversation, in the journey that they're having and where they are, and blend with them and kind of guide their mental conversations along the framework, such that you stack those insights up in a logical way and an emotional way that doesn't overwhelm them. That's not too far a stretch, too far ahead of what they believe is true, and you let them equalize, and you give them the series of stair-step insights to build upon. Does that make sense? All right. I know I'm talking really rapidly here, and it's time to slow down for a second. And again, if you're just joining us, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be walking through a real life demonstration of a process that I'm using to build rapport, authority, trust, and the right kind of relationship, and the right kind of within the context such that I'm optimizing for people that I'm going to enjoy working with and spending time with. And it's in the realm of personal development, spiritual development, if that makes sense. All right. And as we go, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and feel free to type in the comments. And if you're watching this on the replay, you got questions, great, put them in the comments. But also, to make sure that I actually see them, please private message me directly so that I'm sure to actually get notified of whatever questions, thoughts, etc., etc., etc. it might be. All right, so let's kind of shift our perspective here, and we'll get into the meat of the matter. So this is the first page, and the way that I've mapped this out in this context is Act 1. It has several scenes, and we're going to go through scene 1, scene 2, and scene 3 of Act 1. And so what I mean in this context, Act 1 takes place entirely through a website. Now, Act 1 can take place anywhere. Act 2 can take place anywhere. Act 3 can take place anywhere. It can be inside of Facebook. It can be in a group. It can be in a... But the important thing is to build and to shift and to build tension as you go between the 3 acts, and such that when the crescendo happens, when the breakthrough of the, like where are we and what is happening, that not only is it what they were anticipating, but it's even better than what they were anticipating. Like the insights that you've stacked up have a synergistic effect, and they provide that. So in this context, Act 1 is going to be website based. Act 2 is going to then shift into email. And Act 3 is going to be a combination of email and webs again. And we're not going to actually be able to look at Act 3 yet because I'm still in the process of building it out. But Act 3 is the crescendo, is like the moral of the story is this. And the in marketing terms, or in enrollment terms, it's the action that you're looking to build them towards, so that if they make it all the way to Act 3, there's a good chance that they'll be excited themselves and be enrolled on their terms to want to progress forward. And in my case, it's to enroll in something that I'm calling the Momentuming Club, which is a giant community, but they won't have any context unless they go through the previous 2 acts and into the 3rd act, which then builds on all the work that we did prior to it. All right. And if you want any kind of additional insights on these 3 acts and such, I highly suggest you look up on YouTube anything by Aaron Sorkin on script writing and or interviews that he's done. Brilliant. And the way that he kind of thinks about each scene, each act of each play has the 3 mini components of it. And so he really explains it much better than I am doing it justice, but you'll get the picture. All right. So this is the first scene of Act 1, so to speak. And the point here is that I want to introduce myself. I'm assuming nothing. I'm assuming that nobody knows who I am. So I start off with something like kind of weird, like, hi, I'm Joshua and I blame Fred. And then over here, you assume that this is Fred. He's why we're here. Have you guys met yet? He's a flea, a flat-headed flea to be exact. Now Fred... So now I've gotten that, and now I'm going to change gears. He's got a strange story to tell, strange and crazy, strange, crazy, and more than a little out there. At least that was my reaction at first. Now this is just the cadence of the way that I write. And again, don't get hung up on the fact that I'm writing this in text format, in an article type format. This could be the same kind of thing that's done. But basically what the insight that I want people to come away with, we'll start to see it unfold. But basically it's starting right here. Like, until you see the story behind the story, you'd probably never follow Fred's advice or let him help you get unstuck, which of course is the whole reason why we're here, right? And yet, as odd as it sounds, if you ever feel stuck, even a little, then Fred just might be the missing link between wanting and having, between choking on the dust of endless regrets and living a meaningful life, making the impact you want and that you deserve, right? And so I'm now just getting a little bit deeper in it, and I'm sharing with something completely different. They haven't heard this before. They haven't heard of Fred the Flat-Headed Flea ever before, unless they know me. And so now there's a difference. I've immediately set myself out from apart. Now I change the script a bit, and I say, look, walk with me and imagine for a second how good it will feel to be free of the onslaught of shouting gurus and their one-size-fits-all lies. You know, the never-ending onslaught of one motivational hack after another. Best case, it works for, so now what I'm doing here is basically telling people that I don't want or that I can't serve best to move along, that this isn't going to be right for them. But what that also is doing simultaneously is it's allowing people to see the tone, and those that are on the same wavelength, that have tried all the things that I'm going to lay out to them, and that they can relate to it. They're going to say, like, where have you been all my life? I get this. I'm in. Where do I, tell me more. And so, I do the positioning of where wooey meets the real world. I mean, you face real life situations you need to overcome, don't you? And at the risk of sounding silly, can I ask, have you been unknowingly cloned? You haven't been, have you? Nope, of course not. You're unique, and the same goes for the challenges that you have to work through. That means that your real problems require real solutions that really work, not some one-size-fits-all. So I am looking for people, and I'm subliminally telling people now that if you like the context of quick fix of this and that, you're not going to like it here. And so, but then I go on further, and I don't tell it subliminally, I tell it overtly, right? Like to rule them out, like Fred's story. You'll hear more from Fred on the breaking that cycle in a minute. First, let's make sure that we're simpatico, that we're on the same wavelength, because if we're not in sync, there's no point in wasting your time if this path ain't never going to take you where you want to go, is there? So are we on the same wavelength? Because, look, the last thing I want you to do is to come away from our time together feeling smarter. Now, how many times have we been told over time that, you just need this one little tweak or this one little piece of secret information that is going to make things magically fix and repair overnight. So again, you're already smart enough. You don't need more info. Am I right? Instead, I Unstuck is about going beyond learning to experiencing the results that you want. A method for momentum by using what you already know. It's about subtracting from your overwhelm, eliminating unnecessary complexities, adding clarity so that you can find empowerment through action. So now only a certain type of people are still with me at this point, right? And then I give them a little bit more. It's here's what the I Unstuck framework is. It's a method, a powerful one to be sure, but it's only a path. It's not the only path. And even if you feel that it might be worth exploring, and even if you feel it might be worth exploring to see if it's right for you, remember, it ain't going to walk itself. The path isn't going to walk itself. I'm reminding them that they still got to do the push-ups, that they still got to do the work involved, right? And all of this basically is one giant insight, which is, hey, this is a learn by doing process. This is a learn and doing at the same time journey. Everything that we're going to be discussing from this, and if you're not ready to do that, if you want some warm bath motivation that quickly fades, then you're not going to be happy here, and this ain't it. And so then I just go on to do all that, which I do very, very in depth, and I talk about this ain't whack-a-mole, meaning that, like before you won't find painkillers here. Temporary cover-ups. Anyway, I don't want you to get hung up on what I'm doing. What I want you to see is that I am doing my best to attempt to interface with people in a way that helps them have the right context, the right frame to look through what comes next when they move into the next set of insights in scene number 2, still in Act 1, right? Which is all about Fred. And then I give them some more positioning. If you're interested, you can go read this at iunstuck.com and you can see how it all comes into play. Then this is not an opt-in form, by the way. It clicks over to the next page. Now, I didn't want to slow down any load time, so I opened it up in the next page over here. So it's already open, but it's just naked, so to speak. There is no forced squeeze page or opt-in, because I'm not interested in getting a lot of unqualified people on my list. I'm interested in getting the right people that are engaged, that are really excited by what I'm sharing here, that love the insights that I'm sharing, that love the way that I'm putting it together here, and so that they can get the value out of it that I'm going to share in the rest of the scenes, in scene 2, which is where we are right now, and through the process. So I guess I should also point out here that that everything is pretty simple in terms of pulling people through. Now, there is the Start Here link that is activated, but when you were on this page here, which is the home page, right? It's grayed out because that is the Start Here. They're on that journey, right? So now some people are slow convincers, so this is like a supplemental scene, the About page. If they want to know a little bit more about it at any point in time, it's there, but the purpose of the About page is to pull them back into the regular insights. And you can see that over here, like there's some actual insights, and so that you can get to know some of my personality, how I think about things and communicate, but then it moves people systematically back into the original process over here, which is starting at page 1 or in scene 2 of Act 1, which is the actual story. So here's the story I promised you. It leaves. Notice that this page leaves on a kind of a cliffhanger, as it were. The first page, the end of scene 1, like you've got to click to continue. Maybe you've accidentally stumbled upon this from time to time, and yet may still be looking for a way to confidently live it with 100% certainty that you can take to the bank. You want to find out? Click to continue. Boom. No games. It just takes you right over to the next page. And this is where they meet Fred, and I give them more than what they expected from this process. And I take them through the whole journey of how Fred got his flat head, and I tell the story from Fred's standpoint, and we bring them through that whole journey. And then, I mean, it's worth reading if you're interested in this type of stuff. But basically what I am doing here is I'm getting them to understand that without saying it's not your fault, without saying it's it's something that you didn't have control over, and sounding kind of corny and hokey, I'm letting them come to that on their own conclusion in the way that the Fred stories unfold, and I leave them with that aspect, as you're about to see. So and then I do things like I reinforce it with funny stuff. Like, for example, there's a scene from Richard Pryor, and it fits in perfectly here, and it's in alignment with what I'm sharing with them, the insights that I'm sharing, and it's also a bit of humor and fun and comedy. But I also I chose a reverent comedian or irreverent comedian, so to speak, purposely because he uses foul language, and he's brilliant in the way that he looks at things differently. And the reason why subliminally I use and I give them the warning, like, if you're offended by foul language, you should skip this video. On the other hand, if you love to laugh because it makes learning fun, hit play now. Well, I want people to know that that's my personality too, and that, subliminally what I'm saying also is, hey, and you will have not so subliminally got that from the tone of the way that I write and the words that I use to write. And I don't apologize for swearing, for using foul language, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, for being grammatically incorrect and so on. And I talk about kind of the journey of how he got that flat head. And then I show how he conditioned himself not to smack his head anymore. But these are all the insights that I want them to come away with knowing without me having to assume it or without me telling them that this is the way it is. I'm telling the story from Fred's perspective so that they can engage and put themselves in Fred's shoes. And I talk about, it becomes his identity, jumping and so on. Anyway, and then I talk about, hey, then fate steps in again and opens the lid. And the only problem is now Fred is going to die in there. Even though he's perfectly capable of jumping out, because that's the only way he could have gotten a flat head is by slamming his head into the roof, because he could jump so high and jump out, that now he's conditioned himself to only jump as high as the lid once was, right? And then I explain further why, but now I've earned the right to get a little bit more educational, so to speak, or to share insights directly or indirectly without it making it about them necessarily. Still talking about Fred, but just sharing my point of view on this and all of this. And it's like PTSD. And then I share another clip from a movie called The Matrix, which happens to be one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, the first scene, and not the first scene, but the first Matrix #1, the original one. Anyway, so and I use that again to have additional outside resources coming in. Outside, halo effects, so that it's not me telling them, but the cumulative factor between these external resources and insights given and reinforcement with other things underlines my point, to the point that they start to adopt those insights and those beliefs as being a part of who they are, their worldview. Okay, so then we're getting towards the end of Act 1 here. Act 2. Act 1, Scene 2, Act 1. Sorry. The second page, in this case, of Act 1 on the website, which is all above the fold. Sharing everything that I can possibly share in the way of insights, creating value, whatever I can do, such that only people that make it this far down are going to find the insights that I'm giving them valuable. And those that don't, right? And so I talk about wish there was a way out of here and having that lid open, and Fred will die in a prison that only exists in his mind. And then I say, but wait a minute, we're not Fred, are we? And now I put them in the shoes of telling me, wait, time out, slow your roll, Joshy boy. You're not, hey, you and me, we're not Fred, right? Or are we? Now, instead of being like accusatory and telling them that it's up to them to believe or not believe, or see themselves in this or not. So then I just say, well, like, look, wish there was a way out of here, and I put my face in there and your head here, question mark. I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And then I share some of my personal stories of and how I made Fred look like an amateur. So I made myself look like the idiot, like the one, and I put myself on the hot seat rather than be in their face and telling them what you should do, or this is what the only way to do this is. And I'm just sharing like my own personal experiences. And I get pretty raw, pretty real, and I talk about everything that I've been through and what led me to develop this concept, to develop these resources, these tools, and how to do that, accordingly, which is another set of the insights that I wanted to stack up so that they come to the conclusions on their own during this journey and tell me rather than me telling them. And that can only happen based upon, them enrolling themselves in the journey, right? So, then I I stop and I say, look, now, presumably the reason you're still here is because you're ready, willing, and even eager to avoid my scars. Don't make my mistakes. If so, I'd guess that right about now, your inner dialogue is probably racing with some spin on the following question. So now I'm framing what I want them to be asking, regardless of whether they are asking it mentally to themselves or not. But also, they are probably, if I've done my job up to this point, they're doing that. And now I'm just encapsulating it and trying to explain to them the problem or the question that they have better than they can actually voice it to themselves. So now this is their inner dialogue, right? Do I have a Fred story? Can I ever find out, and how can I ever find out if the Fred story is unconscious? I mean, wouldn't the story be invisible if, as you say, it's been conditioned deep in my unconscious mind? How would I even know? And more importantly, if Fred is making me dance like his little puppet, how do I get rid of the story for good so that it never forces me again to ever settle for anything less than the entire bigger future my family and I want, right? So now I'm helping to frame their conversation with themselves, and now I go, dudette, your inner dialogue is on point. Fantastic questions. I'm praising them up, right? All of them. If we switch places, remember it wasn't long. All of them. If we switch places, and then I remember it wasn't so long ago when I was in your shoes. At this point, that's precisely what would be running through my mind too. I'm, congratulating them for having those thoughts, and basically, again, you wouldn't be this far in. Be my type of person. Be our type of people. People like us do things like this, right? And so that is the brilliant insight from Seth Godin in his book, This is Marketing, which if you haven't read, I highly recommend. Anyway, so the point is, I wrap up here is on another kind of cliffhanger, open loop as it were. Well, then it's a damn good thing that that's exactly what's up next on our agenda to unpack, is it not? And the click to continue button along with a separate link there. I'm just testing some different stuff out, but basically it's just it's the conditioning to get them to continue forward. And a shout out to Andre Chaperone, who's the one who taught me this process and the conditioning of the click to move forward rather than the opt-in, because what I'm interested in is people that get this far in. Those are the people that are my people. Those are the people that I want to work with, and wherever they fall out along the process doesn't mean that they're not good for me yet, but it just means that at this point of the game that they haven't evolved to that level. Now I can meet them wherever they happen to fall out of the process and move them back into the different acts or the different scenes within these acts, but that's more of an advanced technique. The point is that can you start to see how this entire process is now evergreen, and it's a machine, it's an engine that continues to deliver these insights in a way that builds to a marketing crescendo that serves them, but also moves them forward. And in the act of moving them forward, it is serving them to get them what they want, what they desire, what they're looking for to have happen. And so the point is that at the end of this scene of Act 1, I want them to take away the idea of these Fred stories and that language, and to start be thinking in terms of Fred stories. It's going to be important later on. With what I have in mind at the crescendo of the third act, which is the offer to enroll in the Momentum Club, although they don't know that yet. And the idea is to serve them and give them value all the way along, right? Along with the supporting scenes of the About Us page and the Contact Us page, so that they can reach out and find me and talk to me should they need it. So at the end, when they click here, again, there is no surprises. It leads them to what? To scene number 3, which is the beginning of the open loop into scene, into act number 2, where I'm going to shift them into an email conversation over that. So ready to roll up your sleeves and have some fun. Super. Before we can unpack to know if a Fred story is sabotaging your success, and if so, what you can do to take control back, I want to give you a new frame to look through and make sense of all this, right? And then I introduce them to another tool, another resource, another thing that is proprietary to me that they've never heard of before unless they know me. The success seesaw, or the stuck, unstuck success seesaw, however you want to look at this. And the reason being is that later on, they don't know this yet, but in the Fred stories, that plays a vital role with understanding how to get rid of the Fred stories, how to achieve and to manifest and to create a future that they want, and without that, kind of spiraling snapback cycle, right? And so I know that I need to do that, and this is the last insight really that I need them to adopt and to start using in order to move them into scene 3, even though we haven't gotten through scene 2 yet, because scene 2 is all about taking the Fred stories and showing people how to recognize if they have them and how to dissolve them, how to get rid of them, and so that they can achieve the results that they want using this seesaw framework, using the success seesaw as a frame to look through and to work through. But it takes me several email lessons, or episodes as it were, to explain how all of this ties in together without overwhelming people, without giving them too much too fast and have them drinking from a fire hose, which it might start to feel like you are right now, because I'm giving you the total inside view and behind the scenes at the same time that I'm taking you through the front stage view of this process. But if you want to experience it for yourself and you have a genuine interest, please don't do this if you don't have an interest in, if you get to the first page and it doesn't resonate with you, you get to the second, please don't continue further just to shop me to get, the insights and how I'm doing this, because I truly am looking forward to building this out in a way that's going to work with people and help them, evolve to something better and different and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the point is that now I'm going to tell them, that I'm damn excited to share these insights with you. I can't wait to see how you'll use them and the results that you'll get. First, however, we need to move this party and continue our conversation by email. You see, other than sitting down face to face, email is absolutely the best way to share these breakthroughs so that you can immediately deploy them for maximum impact without the heartburn or overwhelm. Now, the reason why I'm moving it to email and the reason why I'm pre-framing it in this fashion is that, number one, I truly believe that. Number two is that I want them to anticipate hearing from me via email. I want to start to pre-pave that journey, and email is act 2, right? So I'm building the suspense for why we're doing this and how we're doing it, and we're going to shift to a private conversation. I give them some reasons why, and the space learning effect and all of that, and what I call the law of 1.5 momentum, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I tell them why that this is not some special report or tactic or bribe that everybody seems to be using these days to coerce people or downright trick people into increasing the conversion rates of your opt-ins. And for what? To download more disappointment, get your hopes up only to be crushed, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, this is just making sure that I'm building the suspense and anticipation, but also that only the right people are going to move forward. And more importantly, that when they do move forward, that they're anticipating that their expectations are managed properly so that they can get the maximum value from it. And I continue to give them the value, and I don't do any bait and switch. I give them the special report. I give them the advanced stuff. And so everything that was given in the website is open, naked. They can explore through it. They can see the ideas. They can implement them. They can move forward at their own pace. Consume them at their own pace, digest them at their own pace, but then it systematically delivers on what is promised, but then also opens the loop to the next bigger resource of insights and that are going to build on it, that it is going to serve them, i.e. give them the tools necessary to actually recognize whether they have Fred stories that are keeping them from having the results that they want to have in their lives, or and if they are, what to do about how to, and some actual resources and insights on how to deal with that, because I break down the success seesaw and in a systematic way, using it with the Fred stories to show people exactly how it's going and why they perhaps haven't gotten the results they've wanted from the other things that they've tried in the past, and how they could, still have the usage of the other things that they've tried, once they learn how to get rid of Fred, so to speak, once they learn how to R&D Fred, recognize and dissolve Fred stories. And so really what I want them to do is to be looking forward to the seesaw at this point, anticipating that as a resource to how to do what? To R&D their Fred stories. That's really the whole purpose of this by the time they enroll in the emails. And then this is some additional stuff about enrollment-based ideas, and enrollment can't be demanded, it must be given, meaning that I can't entice somebody, I can't force anybody to enroll in anything. It's a volunteer response from the other party. And then the click to continue button is the same thing, looks the same way, but here's where the opt-in takes place. After I've done my best to deliver hardcore value at their pace, built around with the insights and moving them forward, and then they can take away their and share. Please share your biggest aha moment takeaway so far. And it's amazing how when I do it in this fashion, with this way, that everybody that gets this far, they have amazing takeaways that they share. And it's really cool because I'm learning about that, but also it's cool for them because it reinforces anything that they write down here to share with me. Not only helps me improve it in the future, but it also reinforces their insights and their breakthroughs that they've gotten at that point. All right, so this is the shift to Act 2, and then Act 2 is a series of, I think it's going to wind up being about 8, maybe 10 different email episodes where I break everything down for them. And I share the success seesaw. Now, if you opt in here, you're welcome to it. I think I've only got the first 3 or 4 episodes live in the system. I've got all 10 of them or all 8 of them. I forget what it breaks down to. I'm seeing that I need to break some of the ones that I was going to give in one email lesson into 2 or more lessons. So that's why I don't know what the ultimate is going to be, but I've got it all mapped out in terms of what needs to happen. And so that is, you can get a taste of where I'm going with it. And then by the end of Act 2, now I make them the offer to move to Act 3. And Act 3 basically is this. At the end of Act 2, I say, look, now you know about your Fred stories, you know how to recognize them, and you have the tools and the resources now to actually R&D them, to do that on your own. The only question is, do you want to be a part of a community that can allow you to, and that you can contribute to the community and you can benefit from the community, that are all speaking the same language? And then if the answer is yes, they move into to Act number 3, which is sharing with them, how the Momentuming Club works and how they can enroll in it and what to expect and blah, 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 and how to be, get the maximum value from being a contributor in there. And the key is that no matter where they choose to drop off, that I want them to walk away, whether they choose to move forward or not, feeling like they got, like the time that they've spent with me, however far it was well served, that all 3 acts was well served, and that they enjoyed being a part of it accordingly. So, like that, and you can get the idea, so to speak, of how this all comes into play. There, I've said a complete monologue. Nobody's asked any questions, probably because I'm going at 1,000,000 miles an hour and or bored the snot out of everybody. And the only people that are interested in this are marketing geeks and personal development, spiritual development geeks like me. And so maybe this is a lot to take in, but I hope you guys can see how this is an evergreen process that builds automatically using my own branding, my own positioning that nobody else can claim, completely different. Yet a lot of the same concepts are similar to what everybody else is doing, but I do it in a unique way. I have a combination of things, and I truly believe that I have a process that handles where the others, the majority, I shouldn't say all the others, but the majority of what I see out there fall short. What are you saying? Never, and laughing at, Gene. I forgot where we might be on this. Oh, boring you, or well, but see, you're a marketing geek, business development geek, personal development geek, and a spiritual development geek, just like me. So, you know, we're on the same page. Plus, you're also an NPod client, so we are definitely in full simpatico alignment. Why, thank you, Gene. I appreciate that. I'm the best at explaining all this because it's my stuff. It's my proprietary knowledge, right? So, yeah, nobody can explain it because I invented it, which is a lesson in and of itself right there, right? The difference is, though, that I've made this evergreen. I truly have done my best to bring it down, and I've thought about, yeah, I never monologue, right? I've done my best to break this process down in a way that will continue to serve them and continue to operate with or without me. And I've thought through. It's taken me a lot of work and time to really think about what are the insights that I want to build this around, and it will alter based upon feedback that I'm getting, and I might frankly end up changing this, or I might add additional lines in the water, so to speak, additional act ones that feed to act 2 and act 3 separately, depending on, you know, the different way that the message resonates. However, right now, this is a way that that the process will work for me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and will do the work of explaining the stuff such that when I actually come time to talk to people inside the community, when it comes time to interfacing with them via email, and as I often do, when they will respond to me via email and I continue an email conversation with them and deepen that, but I'm doing it in a way such that what they're communicating with me has been pre-framed to be in alignment with these types of insights. And when they join the community, they're talking the same language. We're all working in the same framework, and we're using the same tools and resources, but applying it differently in each of our individual lives as we, put it to work and start living it. And that's really the difference. You know, that's what Act 3 is all about, is the living it process of actually living the stuff so that you can get the results that you want to get rather than just learning about them. And that's what I meant in the very beginning about, I don't want you to come away from this any smarter. And so anyway, that's the long and the short of it. And I hope that this was useful to see an actual demonstration, to see an actual walkthrough of this process, and to have it be not something that's marketing related necessarily, to roll with it. So if you're interested in, the process of how to build one of these platforms and or components of these platforms for yourself, and you'd like to see, how close your present platform is or isn't to this process, or you'd like to take an inventory of it, then what I'll do is I'll put in the comments here, and then I'll put it on screen so that you all can see it. What will I do? Oh, let me refresh it so I can actually see it. And stand by. Let me put the link in the... Yeah, there it is. Okay. Now I can put that in the, it's in the comments on my personal page. It's just showspath.com/platform. That will lead you to the platform audit that you can then take and be a part of, and it will give you some insights and some inventory about where your platform is currently. And assuming that you're trying to build an evergreen marketing engine or insight marketing engine that becomes eventually becomes part, that your platform can be turned into a income for life marketing engine that you can then, build in and do the work once, so to speak, and have assets that are working for you. Because as I hope you can see, that this is an asset now that I can use and leverage that isn't going to burn out and fade away, particularly because of the way that it's been designed. All right, so if you're interested in that, or if you're watching this on the recorded version, feel free to go directly to this link. It's showspath.com/platform. That'll take you right to the assessment that will pull you through it. And in a few minutes of mostly multiple choice questions of feedback, help you, give you the insights. And then if it makes sense, we can talk about how to adapt this for your current situations, and talk about if or how we can help you do that, and but by giving you some sort of a customized blueprint that you personally can follow and do. So feel free to submit the assessment. You'll get a copy of it. We'll get a copy of it. We'll review it, and if it makes sense and we think that there's something that we can do, then we'll work out some times to offer you a private consult on it, on how to customize it for your specific needs and what you're looking to accomplish, so that you can truly build that type of a platform. All right. With that, I think it's time to wrap up. Anything else that anybody has before I do? I will wait for some comments to come in if there are any. Otherwise, we will rock and roll and wrap, and I will see you tomorrow, if not. And then thanks, Rohit. I hope I'm not butchering that too bad. Rohit, I appreciate it, and looking forward to working with you. Thanks, Gene. Have a great day yourself. I really appreciate it, and thanks for all of the time and the patience. I know it's a little bit difficult to listen to just this type of process, but for me it was pretty quick. I think I got it done when I actually got into it in about a half hour to 35 minutes or so. Anyway, any questions that you have, feel free to reach out to me via direct messaging. And have to watch this live again. How can I contact you once I check it out? On my page, where I don't know where you're watching it right now, Rohit, but if you're on my public profile page, which is just joshuashafran.com, I have these lives as public. And I see that you are watching it on my personal profile. So yeah, you can reach out there, or and that's where it'll be live as soon as I hit the done button. Within I'd say I don't know, within 5 minutes it will be available as a rebroadcast, so that you can play it at your heart's content, however you see fit. And then you can just private message me with any insights that you have, or you can go directly to the platform audit process and take the assessment and see what turns up and or not. And just keep in mind that the platform assessment is another part of my marketing and entrepreneurial business development IME process, which means that, yes, I do have an ulterior motive if it serves the people that take that, to be a part of, if it's the right fit to join me and or be a part of that journey with me, then I look forward to having that be a part of it. But this is also enrollment based, meaning that there's never a coerce. It's got to be in your interest, your decision to move forward with whatever the next steps are. So, I'm not only sharing it and what I'm doing in terms of the personal development side of things, but I'm actually modeling it for myself, and like that. You're looking for something like this already. All right, cool. Excited to go deeper with you, Rohit. And if there's some way that Telman and I can be a part of that makes sense, that's in alignment with what you want to do and with what we're doing, we'd love to explore that with you. Great. Okay, cool. So anything else? Then we'll just we'll rock and roll with it, and we're gonna call it a day right now. Then, and I will. Check out, and we'll see you in the not too distant future. Take care.